for us to be here or not, and yet to be nene minimuda shel Torah. And we welcome all the mazinim around the globe. Leili Nishmas, my father Zechron Levrocha, the Meir Babdoiv Bel. We are going to see tonight a number of very, very interesting issues, because in the next few halachas, the Rambam, in his inimitable fashion, in his concise, precise lashon, touched on many, many contemporary problems, which have been the problems of Limud Torah from the very beginning. We are all afraid of learning, and this is a pella. Why should we be afraid of learning? Every normal child looks forward to learning. So what happened from the time we were children until we grew up into mature adults? How did we become afraid of learning? So the first and foremost issue is that it's not for me. It's not for me. And this Rambam addresses Halacha Ches, Kol Ish Mi Yisrael Chayiv B'Talmud Torah. If you're Jewish, so it's for you. The Baruch gave Torah to the Jewish people. Ata b'chatonu, ahavta isonu, rotzisa bonu. We make a bracha, shabocha bonu mikol ha'amim. V'nosan lonu es Torosai. V'nosan lonu es Torosai, without exception. So that Kol Ish Mi Yisrael Chayiv B'Talmud Torah, and the Rambam goes on to be very specific, which is also interesting. Bein Oni, an Oni has no excuse. Bein Oshir, a person with tremendous wealth has no excuse. Bein Sholem Begufay, healthy or otherwise. Bein Bal Yisurin. Bein Bocho, whether he's younger. Or Bein Zokein. Zokein Godol Shetoshash Koichoy.
What's the last one?
What?
The last one.
The last?
Yes.
Even a person in the last minutes in bed, in the hospital, is chayiv in Talmud Torah. We'll see in a minute. How? When? Shenema. Afilu oni amispanis min tzedakah u'machaza al psochem. Even if he has to wander the streets looking for a penny to put his life together. Afilu bal isho bonim. Even if he has a family he needs to support. Chayiv lekvoya lo izman b'Talmud Torah b'yoyim u'balaylo. Shenema v'ogisa b'yoyim u'balaylo. It's an interesting Gemara, a very interesting Gemara, and what makes it more interesting is that the Gemara itself has two sides to a question. The Gemara says that Yoytze dechiya v'ogisa b'yoyim u'balaylo with krishma shachas v'alvis. So machlokes in the Gemara, should we tell this to Amoritz, or should we not tell this to Amoritz? One day in the Gemara, one Lashon says, "V'dova zeh also lomer l'Amoritz," because he's going to say, "Oh, Tam Yoitza." I once met someone, I still shudder when I think about it. I once met someone who was in a position of teaching Torah, and he says to me, "You really believe that you have to learn all the time? You know," he said, "with Krishma in the morning and Krishma in the evening." And I said to myself, he's mamish the Amoritz that the Gemara says you have to be careful not to tell him this. Mishabura says, "V'dava Pashat, the Chi of Talmud Torah is all the time, day and night, unless you have a reason why you're not. The reason why you're not has to be because you can't. Why can't you? We'll get to that in a minute. The Rambam listed reason by reason. You can't because you don't have an income. You can't because you have too great an income. You can't because you have no health. You can't because you have too much health. You can't because you're too young. You can't because you're too old. None of these are reasons. There are two Gemaras that we have to discuss. And since it's out of Shavuos, this is mamish the sugya of Erev Shavuos. The Maral wrote a drush. A drosha for Shavuos, drush ala Torah and drush ala mitzvah. And he brings a medrash that the Torah was given in Mayim and Eish and Midbar. It's one pasuk. Bo Midbar Sinai is another pasuk. Shemayim Notvu, Dvora in the Shiras Dvora, there was water. The Bansham gave Torah out of a rain situation, water, out of a fire situation, Aish, and out of a Midbar situation. The Maral has a number of ways of hearing what's being said. But he brings the Gemara in Yuma, Daf Lamed. The Gemara says that when we come to Din, we're going to have one of three excuses. Either wealth will be our excuse, or poverty will be our excuse, or Yetzer Hara will be our excuse. And this always startles me because we spoke already a number of times. Yes, we have a Yetzer Hara, but yes, we have a Yetzer Torah. The Gemara says that we come to Din, Rebbe Lezer ben Chazon is Machayev Ashira. Person comes to Yom Adin and he says, the Baruch Shem gave me tremendous wealth. Obviously, he wanted that I should take care of it. In order to be Posheya and a Matona Toiva. So I was involved in my wealth. And the Gemara says, we'll say to him, Kloma Isa Asha Yoisa Rebbe Lezer ben Chazon. He had so much wealth, cities he had, ships he had, fields he had, orchards he had. He sat himself down to learn and then let it run itself. They once caught him to make him pay taxes. They didn't realize that he's on his own property. And his own servants caught him unknowing that he's the balabas. And he just paid and kept on going. Don't get involved. A person will come and say, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it. Who doesn't know the story with Hillel? That he earned enough to make his way into the Beis Medrash, and one day he didn't, so he climbed up on the roof, and it was a winter day, and it snowed on him, he almost froze to death, and they brought him down, they revived him on Shabbos, the Machal Shabbos, to save his life, and he's Machayev Aniyah. Then the Gemara says, but a person is going to come upstairs, he's going to say, but Rabbi Shlita, you gave me a Yetzer Hara, how was I supposed to manage? And the Rabbi will say, what about Yosef? You heard about Yosef? You had a big Yetzer Hara than Yosef, and Yosef was Mizgab on his Yetzer Hara. It's a siman that you could. Says the Maral, this is what the Medrash is saying. Torah was given in Mayim. Mayim is Taiva. The Mishnah was, the Torah was given in Eish. Eish is Yetzer Hara. And the Torah was given in the Midbar. The Midbar is a place in which there's no Parnasa. The Baruch Shem gives Parnasa. The Gemara sustains us. The Torah sustains us in wealth. And the Torah sustains us in all matzavim of Milchama. So that a person has to hear first and foremost, by holding a week plus before Shavuos, we're about to be makabel again, Torah. What does it mean, Lekabel es HaTorah? It means that we're committed to knowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu through Limud HaTorah. No person can judge any other person, but every person has to judge himself. So that the first halacha tonight is that there's nobody that's parted from learning. We go on to the next halacha. You're supposed to learn all day. What's called all day? Says the Rambam, and the Rambam is one of the big misnagdim to koidalim. We're learning Rambam even though he was a misnagid to koidalim, but the Beis Yosef says we don't paskin like the Rambam in this issue. But we certainly learn the Rambam to hear what the Rambam is saying, because not all of us are sitting in koilel. So what are we supposed to look like if we're not sitting in koilel? Says the Rambam, G'doilei Chachamei Yisrael, the greatest of our Chachamim were Hayu Mehem Choit Ve'etzim. There were those who chopped wood for a living, like Hillel. Umehem Shoevei Mayim. There were those who drew water for a living. Umehem Sumim. They were even blind Chachamim, Rav Yosef, Rav Sheshes. Ve'afal Pikein Hayu Oiskim Betalmud Torah Beyoim Ubalaylo. And they made it into the lineup to be the Moisrei HaTorah. So you see that there's no limitation to how a person, where a person, when a person. If a person is Moisa Atzmoi, Talimud HaTorah, the doors of Matike HaShmua are open to him. Point 2. But we look at Halacha Yud, Ad Eimosai Chayiv Lilmod Torah. Till when? Therefore is a Shia. I finished Yeshiva Ktan already. I finished Yeshiva Gdoil already. I graduated from Koilel. Now it's time to go on. Says the Rambam, Ad Eimosai Chayiv Lilmod Torah, Ad Yoim Moisai. Shneimar Upen Yosuru Melvovcho Kol Yemei Chayecho. Because this is the most frightening statement, and this is, we'll get to a minute, a love in the Torah. Are you allowed to forget? It's almost incredible. Can a person be allowed or not allowed to forget? How can you tell a person you're not allowed to forget? Kilu, he wants to forget. He tries to forget. How could the Torah have a tain on a person that he forgot? And the Mishnah says in others, how can you tell a person not to forget? The Teretz is, it's almost incredible, it's almost impossible. But as soon as you stop learning, you forget. So when the person comes and he says, the Gemara itself says, Yochel afilu mitoich onzoi limudoi. Gemara says no. If he's learning and learning and learning and he forgot something, we can't be mechayev him. But if he closes the Gemara, then he has no excuse. Why did you forget? What do you mean I didn't forget? I'm only human. So why weren't you learning? We're going to get to another Rambam. Very interesting. There's no question that there are moments that you're allowed to close the Gemara. The Gemara says in Zvochem that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchais. He taught us a lesson. What was the positive lesson that came out of breaking the luchais? The Gemara says, Bitula zui kiyuma. A person could break the luchais and get a yashakoyach. The last Rashi in Chumash gives Moshe Rabbeinu a yashakoyach. Asher Shibalto, Asher Loshen Ishu. The Baruch Shem gave Moshe Rabbeinu a yashakoyach for breaking the luchais, because by breaking the luchais, Moshe Rabbeinu improved on our relationship with Torah. This is a sugya shleima. But the Gemara learns from this that there's a matzav in which bitula shel Torah can actually become kiyuma shel Torah. There are moments in the life of a person that in order to sustain life and learning, he has to stop learning. If a person does that, so then he gets credit for learning even when he's not learning. But the Rambam himself says later, how do you know? Every person fools himself. So how do you know? How do you know if you're not learning because you need to take a break, or you're not learning because you want to stop learning? It's pashut. What do you do the next minute? What do you do when the break is over? They tell over a very interesting story from the Gra himself. He had a guest for Shabbos, and contrary to the conventional behavior pattern of Jews on Shabbos, the Goyen refrained from eating a whole Shabbos. He sat and learned the whole Shabbos. And his guest asked him, Rabbeinu, it's a mitzvah saseh medivei Kabbalah, laning is a Shabbos. It's a big shaila about fasting on Shabbos.
It's a fast Sunday also.
Oh, the Goyen said that's what you have to do for kapara. But the Goyen said, if you're going to eat on Shabbos, you are inevitably also going to eat on Sunday. If you learn on Shabbos, you're going to inevitably learn on Sunday also. It's better to learn on Shabbos and learn on Sunday than to eat on Shabbos and also eat on Sunday. This is a loaded statement, but it's a human condition. The human condition. Do we?
Who said that?
The girl, Rabbeinu Agoyen Mivilna. Do we hear that we go into Shabbos and we go out of Shabbos and we will mechabed u'ma'anig as a Shabbos, or do we hear we go into Shabbos and out of Shabbos, and we have a new program. And now the whole week looks different, because on Shabbos we heard that you could eat kishke, so you could eat kishke all week. On Shabbos we heard you could eat gala, so you could eat Allah the whole week. On Shabbos we had a bowl of chicken soup, so that's it. Every Tuesday night we need chicken soup. What do we take out of Shabbos? This is the Nekuda Shalamis. If we stop learning for a moment, and we really believe we're stopping learning because we need to stop learning, so then as soon as it's not any longer imperative that we stop learning, do we naturally go back to the Gemara? Or it's hard work going back to the Gemara? Inevitably, every break. It's hard for me to say this, but I say it to myself, so I could say it to others also. You can listen to me, say it to myself. It's very, very hard for us, because we're all immature, we're all children, and every change in schedule of a child takes him a long time to go back to schedule. I have a story that shakes me up. I don't take responsibility for the story because I wasn't there. But they say that Rabbi Belsky, who was the yeshiva in Ponevezh for so many years, he was already over 70. And his minhag was to go to Beit Medrash before Shachris and to learn a couple of hours before Shachris. And one day he's getting ready to leave, and his Einikal who's taking him says to him, Zayda, there's a blowout, there's no lights. So there's no reason to go to Beit Medrash. You can learn at home. And he said to him, we're going to Beit Medrash. He said, but there's no reason to go, there's no lights. We're going to Beit Medrash. But he went to Beit Medrash and he sat in the dark and learned for a couple of hours in the dark. And then he came back after Shachar, so after Mincha, his Einikal asked him, Rabbeinu, why did we have to go sit in the dark? Yeah? What would you think he's going to say? He said to him, if we don't go today, we're not going to go tomorrow. You hear that? I hear it in all of my bones. Because people who get up to Daven V'thikin know it's a fact. If you get up every day V'thikin, it's easy. But if you miss one day, the next day, hard again. The pella. The pella de Gazal. The human condition is hergel. We ask, so if a person senses in himself that he's leaving the Beit Medrash under pressure, the raya is that as soon as the pressure is off, he's back in Beit Medrash. But if he doesn't immediately return to his learning, that means that he's leaving the Beit Medrash for other reasons. And this needs bedika. I am going to preempt your question, because how can you sit in Beit Medrash all day if you don't enjoy it? I accept that. But the question is, how could you not enjoy it? Any intelligent person has a healthy curiosity. And any person with a healthy curiosity wants to know. The problem with our educational system is that it has pulled the plug on our interest. So we owe it to ourselves to reignite our interest in learning. So that's the next halacha. Halacha Yud Aleph. V'chayiv l'shalesh ezman lemidosai. A person has to structure his learning so that he's always productive. What's the l'shalesh? What are the three sections of learning? The hainu. Shlish b'toyre shebiksav. He needs a shlish in Pella. It's a machlek zishonim. What does mishalish mean? Literally, a day this, a day this, a day that, or in the day itself, an hour this, an hour that. We have for Rabbeinu Tam that our learning Talmud Bavli is itself a shlish mikra, shlish mishna, shlish gemara. But let's see what the Rambam says. V'chayiv l'shalish ezman lemidosai. Shlish b'torah shebiksav, u'shlish b'torah shebal peh, u'shlish yovin v'yaskil achres dova meirashisai. He should be able to derive, extrapolate the results of his learning from the beginnings. V'yoytzi dova midova. He should be able to extract a din or a svara from another din or another svara. V'yadame dova ledova. He should be able to compare a din to another din, a svara to a svara. Ve'yovin b'midoy she'atoyren desh b'hem. And he should understand the Yud Gimel Midas, HaKal v'choymer, Gzeiras Shova, Binyanav, Ad sheyeda heichi ikar hamidos. How are these midas used in this in structuring the limud HaTorah? How do you extract a osa or a muta from a pasuk or a mishnah? The kiyoytze ben midvarim shalomad mipi hashmua. Inyan zeh hu anikra Gemara. So that Gemara has a large base of operation. We're afraid of Gemara, but there's no reason to be afraid of Gemara, because Gemara should be an exciting adventure if it's learned properly. So there are those who learn Gemara Rashi Tosfos. There are those who learn Gemara Rashi and Rosh and leave the Tosfos for later. There are those who learn Gemara Rashi and they have someone on the side who prints them an explanation. Or there are those who learn with others or from others. But there has to be, the achrayus of every person is to find a level of learning in which is more than comfortable. More than comfortable. So we mentioned the other week that even chazering Piskei Halachos, many people enjoy the Mishnah Berurah, many people enjoy the Aruch HaShulchan, many people enjoy Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, many people enjoy Mishnayos. But the Chazon Ish writes that tzlocha in learning comes from constancy. Even to say a kapitel Tehillim, even to look at Lametes Malachas Mavur Aros. Anything that brings a person closer to understanding Torah is limud Torah. We don't have to worry about straining ourselves to reach the top of our Sinai. We have to work at spending more and more time in learning Torah, understanding and coming to grips with the mutter and the asa, with the depth and the breadth of what the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us on our Sinai. We go a little bit weiter. Keitzad hoya.
So Tehillim is considered learning.
Absolutely. But again, we're frightened, so I'm not going to tell you anything frightening. We're frightened because someone told us that if you learn Tehillim, if you say Tehillim, and you can really be learning a Tosfos, so you're being mevatel Torah. So it's frightened us off. Because if we're anyway not, if we're anyway not going to make it, so why do we have to strain and struggle if we're anyway bad? But the Torah says, we're not bad, we're so good. We're so good. And we don't have to look for anyone else for issue. If we have enjoyment from saying Tehillim, by all means say Tehillim. And if we have enjoyment for learning a Mishnah, so by all means learn a Mishnah. And the klal is, even mitoch shaloi l'shmo bo l'shmo, kol shkei mitoch oinik, a learning of Torah, it brings only to better and bigger. Only to bigger and better. We have to have every opportunity to open a sefer. And if we have every opportunity to open a sefer, we become deeper and broader by definition.
Is the niggin also Torah?
It depends which niggin. If it's a niggin Gemara, so then it could be. But you have to understand yourself. I'm glad you asked the question. I'm glad you asked the question. You have to understand yourself.
Is part of this?
We'll get to that in 1 minute. We're going to field all the questions because I want to share with you a thought. Rabbi Chaim brings, you're allowed to stop learning to learn Musa. Now, why are you allowed to stop learning to learn Musa? Because learning has to be learned to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We saw this in the Bach, in the Birchas HaTorah. A person has to learn Torah to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if he feels a cooling down of his Yirah Shamayim, so he can stop learning to be Ma'oider is the Yirah Shamayim. But Reb Chaim makes an incredible ha'ora. He says that the Gemara compares Musa, Yirah Shamayim, to the little bit of earth that needs to be stored in the Tvuah in order for the Tvuah not to spoil. So how much earth do you put into your tvua to keep your tvua from spoiling? It's like how much rice do you put in a bottle of salt to keep the salt from sticking? So how much time could you spend learning Musa? So between you and I and the whole world that's listening, we live in difficult times, so there's no question that if a person feels he needs 8 hours of Musa in order to keep himself normal, then go right ahead, learn 8 hours of Musa. But you have to understand yourself, that's not called 8 hours of learning, that's called 8 hours of Musa. A niggin is necessary, there's no question. You can't live without a niggin, there's no question about it. It's like without air. You can't live without air, there's no question. But would you do a niggin instead of a football game? Would you do a niggin instead of a baseball game, a Super Bowl game? Why is it that you only need a niggin when you're supposed to be learning? That's the question. See, and that, if you're honest enough, it solves all the problems, that's all. You're right. At our stage in development, the person needs a niggin more than a snowball game, so then he needs a niggin middle of a Seder. But if it's only the Seder, so then obviously there's something wrong. Clara? What was the other question?
Is prejudice?
What is
prejudice?
or learning Hasidus?
So let me tell you, very
Zohar,
simple.
Kabbalah.
Let's be all honest with ourselves. Rabbi Yehuda Levi writes that this is a surefire road to insanity. Because in order to be misboided, you have to be misboided with someone. With someone. So who are you taking with you? Oh, how do you know? So if you take the Malach Michael with you, the Malach Gabriel with you, if you need Pasha to leave people because you need Pasha to put yourself together again, Zichet's necessary. But it doesn't always settle a person. A lot of times it unsettles a person.
So it's always being like talking to Hashem.
So I want to hear that question. But how do we talk to Hashem? The Rambam says, after we finish, Hashem, when we get finished with Hilchot Torah, we don't have to finish, when we get finished with our shiur, our parameters of learning Hilchot Talmud Torah and the Rambam, we're going to learn a little bit Hilchot Tefillah. The Rambam says that 2,000 years ago plus, we came back from Golas Bavel, we were incapable of putting together a sentence. A sentence. So Mela Ezra and his Bezdin gave us a siddur. So I would say, Ephraim, why do you have to put together a sentence for? Why don't you sing a niggin? It's a valid question. The Rambam says, when we came back from Bavel, the first halacha in Perek Beis, in Hilchot Tefillah, b'mei Rabbi Gamliel, Rabu apikosim b'Yisrael. I skipped a little bit, 1 minute. I skipped a little bit, that's Perek Beis. We want Perek Aleph halacha Dalet. Keven shegolu Yisrael b'mei Nebuchadnezzar Rosha. Nisavu beporas, beyovon, beshara umois, benoldu lem bonim barotzes hagoyim, ve'oisem abonim nizbalbalu svasom, ve'oisa svas kol echad ve'echad mu'reves meleshoines halbei. Ve'keven shoy medaber, en yochel medaber kol tzorchoi b'loshen echad, ele b'shibosh. Shneimar, he brings a pasuk. They were talking all kinds of languages. So the Bezdin shall ezeh tikdulem shmoine esay brochas halaseda. So if a person wants to know, are you talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? There's one simple way to know. Are you davening Nusach Ashkenaz or Sfarad? Are you davening with a minyan? Are you in a Beis HaMedrash? Are you saying when you should, what you should? Then you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Otherwise, can a person ever know that he's talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You say, of course, yes. Of course, yes. No. I hear. What? Avada?
Because the three fields are not enough. You have to go out, you have to talk, you have to cry, you have to...
No question. But when you say not enough, right? What does it mean? Where do we...
Of course you have to three fields.
So,
Three fields plus.
So there's no question that a healthy person who's structured and stable needs his boiditus. But that's why the Baruch Shem gave us a Shabbos. That's why the Baruch Shem gave us a Purim. That's why he gave us a Chanukah. That's why he gave us a Shavuos. That's why he gave us a Sukkot. So that in the system there is enough as boiditus for a healthy, happy person to make do. Any person who needs has to know that his needs have to be met. But what is his first and foremost need? L'mashal. Now that like Boim is over, we can talk about going to Meron. Can't talk about going to Meron until it's over. But now that it's over, if we had to sit down with a cheshbon hanefesh, could we honestly say that having gone to Meron, we are better off than had we stayed in Yerushalayim and learned for 12 hours? The teretz is, had we stayed in Yerushalayim, we wouldn't have learned for 12 hours. So it's a muzzle we went to Meron. But that's not an honest answer. See, the honest answer is that Lag Ba'omer, the Baruch Shem gave us 24 hours to connect deeply with what Reb Shimon did for us. What did Reb Shimon give to us? What is it that we have for Reb Shimon? The teretz is called HaTorah Kula. If not for Reb Shimon, Torah would have long been forgotten. So maybe he gave us Torah. What did Reb Shimon do for 12 years in the Ma'ira? Which Torah? How do you know? Because?
What?
How do you know? Because the Baal Tanya said it out loud. He said, to learn Zohar, 3 months is enough. For what do you need 12 years? Mishnayos. So you see that the real people had no problem saying it straight. We need Reb Shimon for Shisha Sedeh Mishnah. You can't open a Mishnayos without finding Reb Shimon. So if a person would have sat like Boima from Shkias HaChama to Shkias HaChama, learning Mishnayos, he would have had the ultimate perfect like Boima. Maybe, I'm asking. But to think that in order to connect to Reb Shimon, we have to go to Reb Shimon's keva. Who told us that to connect to Reb Shimon, we have to go to his keva? Just like who told us that to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you have to go out into the field. To connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you have to go into Beis HaMedrash, into Beis HaKnesses. Where's the Rebbeinu Shalom? Shoyre, Masha Shchenosai, B'Dalet Amna Shel Halacha. Wherever there's a Beis HaMedrash or Beis HaKnesses, there's a Shvayis HaShechina.
The thing that says that the Shechina these days is by Kibbutz Tzadikim?
Not exactly. What it says is that when the Shechina has no place to rest, so it goes to find someone that I could trust. So they go back to that Tzomish of the Tzadikim. But wherever there are 10 sitting and learning, the Shechina Shoy B'neihem. Wherever there are 3 sitting and learning, the Shechina Shoy B'neihem. Wherever there are 2 sitting and learning, the Shechina Shoy B'neihem. So that if we really were intent on connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we would memorize Mishnayos, we would have a Seder Mishnayos, we would root ourselves. We need to root ourselves in a Zman Mokim Kavua B'Torah U'Tfilah. After that, our needs need to be met. So there's no question if the person eats a meal of meat and potatoes and fish and she had a little bit dessert to smooth it down. A little bit rompen to smooth it down. But to eat bromfen and drink bromfen, it's like you remind me of the story of Prime about the guy who was down and out. He didn't have anything. He didn't have anything. All he had was about the bromfen. So he sat down to the Suda Shabbos, so he has no fish. So he had a glass of bromfen. No, after the fish, you need a glass of bromfen. So after this glass of bromfen, you had a glass of bromfen. You understand? It can't become that we live off a niggin. It has to be that we use nigina to develop a relationship with Torah and Avodah. It has to be. It has to be. It has to be that we use his boidedness to create a relationship with Torah and Avodah. Yes.
Now, I'm not trying to get off topic, but because we touched on it.
You can't get off topic. Our topic is from one end of the earth to the end of the earth. That's why we're sitting here. The shtibel stands
Why is it that all the
Shtibel stands
for covering all topics.
Lighthouse.
But like the reason
Lighthouse.
why the reason why the first questions come up was again is this a nigga, is this Torah, is that Torah? It's because those things just like they naturally feel connected to the bunch. You just straightforward, boom, feel ruchnis, go to my wrong, you feel my ruchnis, you can sing in the gun, you can still feel ruchnis.
Learning though,
it's
so that's what I want you to hear.
Yiddish, obviously, but it's not like
So I want you to hear loud and clear.
It should be, and it could be, but sometimes it's
I want you to hear loud and clear.
I'm not saying for myself, but some people.
No, you speak. You speak for everybody. You speak for everybody.
So then how do we get that?
So I'm trying to tell you clearly. Everything other than clarity and parameters is called dimyonis. In English, we call it flights of fancy. Flights of fancy. That a person thinks that a niggan connects him to the Rabbi Shalom is an illusion. I'll tell you why it's an illusion. I'll tell you why it's an illusion. I'll tell you why it's an illusion. Here. How would you define a tzaddik? How would you define a tzaddik?
I'm guessing from the question, I probably shouldn't try.
No, any answer is acceptable. Any answer acceptable. We'll go around the table. I don't want to put you on the spot. How would you define a tzaddik? How would you define a tzaddik? So is there a righteous man? What's a righteous man? How would you define a tzaddik? A tzaddik. So you say he gets up in the morning, he doesn't get up in the afternoon, right? Where would you define a tzaddik? You know what the Gemara says? You know how we define a tzaddik? He's mispalel and he brings rain. Very simple. So if we are so sure that we connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so why don't we bring rain? We sang a niggun, we're so close, we're so connected, so why didn't you just bring the rain? Or we have a neighbor who has a sick daughter, le'aleinu, or a sick mother, le'aleinu, or any other tzara in the world. Why don't we just sing a niggun, and boom, you bring it a first name? The Torah says, it's an illusion. You think you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have no clue. But a tzaddik talks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he brings rain, and first lema, and panasa. And that's why we go to tzaddikim, because we know that they are closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if you ask me who in our generation, in our parameter of behavior, is the closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I have no simple question, I have no problem. Chaim Kanievsky. And everyone goes to him because you ask him, and you get a straight answer. If anyone in our generation could bring rain, it's Chaim Kanievsky. Why? Because he doesn't stop learning. That's all. Not because he's singing, not because he's boy to this, not because anything else. He doesn't stop learning. All I'm saying is that is the only try and true method. Now it could be having sung an niggun, I feel better, so I could learn. It could be having made his boy to this, I can face my family. I put my brains back together again. Push it, but that doesn't make it Torah. It doesn't make it learning. It doesn't make it tefillah. It makes it therapy. It makes it necessary behavioral pattern. But it doesn't mean it replaces opening a sefer, because when you open a sefer, and again, you talk about Kabbalah, you talk about Zohar, you talk about all these things, of course it's Torah, but it's not for us Torah because we don't have a clue what's going on. If you can't put together 1 and 1 and 2 and figure out Halacha and Shabbos, So what makes you so sure that you can put together one and two and understand what the Zohar is saying? To say Zohar, very big question if it's a mitzvah. To say Tilim, yes. There's a difference between Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat. In any facet, you see, we have a line from a big Rebbe. Rab Nachman was a big Rebbe, but there were other big Rebbes also. And one of the big Rebbes is the Meir Shiloach. Meir Shiloach was a big Rebbe in Poland. He once came into the Beis Medrash. It was a nice early Shabbos morning, and he found a chassid sitting and learning Zohar. So he said to him, Yankel, what are you doing? So he said, Rebbe, shtei toch, that you shall learn sister Torah and Shabbos. So he gave him a clap on the shoulder. He said, Yankel, learn Baba Kama. For you, it's also sister Torah. You understand? It's a very funny joke, but it's a real statement. In other words, what's called Sisrei Torah? Sisrei Torah means what you don't know is Sisrei Torah, that's all. So you're supposed to know first what you should know. And as your mind opens, as your heart opens, as you come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so your level of learning climbs. So in the night hours, after everyone's sleeping, and you're misboided with the Bernstein and a blood Gemara, so there are other levels of learning. But Reb Chaim Volozhiner brings a medrash. When you get upstairs after 120 years, they ask you first, did you learn Chumash Rashi? If you say yes, they say, did you learn Mishnayos? If you say yes, they say, did you learn Gemara? If you say yes, they say, did you learn Tosefta? If you say yes, they say, did you learn Sifri and Sifra? If you say yes, then they say, did you learn Ma'aseh Makova? There's no question that every single Jew is mechuyev to learn also Zohar, and also Ma'aseh Makova, and also Ma'aseh Bereshis. But it's not the first thing. It's when you already put away Talmud Bavli, you put away Talmud Yerushalmi, and you're holding by growing into a closer relationship with Hashem. So then, of course, there's no limit to how much we're supposed to learn. But what's criminal, that's what I want you to hear. Avada, it's easier to get involved in something that's lighter. But that is not good, healthy behavior. Yes, lighter when you can't open your eyes. Yes, lighter when you're learning already for 16 hours. Yes, lighter when you're sitting on a bus or you're flying to a chasana. But if you have prime time and you can learn how to learn a blood Gemara, you have good hours and you can know a Masechta Mishnayos. So Vada, what comes first is what we call Basar Bedogim of Torah. And this I don't mind explaining over and over again. That's why we chose to start with the Rambam Hilchot Talmud Torah. You see, I think we're going to go Thursday evening into learning Taryag Mitzvahs. There are svarim about Taryag Mitzvahs that Poshet are like chocolate cake, like Bromfen. You have to know who your audience is. Like Tanuga is Olam. What? We're going to start. We're going to start right now, but we're going to talk a little bit Thursday night about a mitzvah in Parshas B'chu Koisei. There's a mitzvah called Ma'aseh Behema. Do you know why the Baruch Shem said Ma'aseh Behema is a mitzvah? Ma'aseh Behema means that from every herd of animals, a tenth has to be taken up to Yerushalayim to eat in Yerushalayim. Let me understand. A person has 4,000 heads of cattle. He has to take 400 to Yerushalayim. What's he going to do with 400 babies over Sukkot?
Massive barbecue.
A massive barbecue. So when he's going to finish a massive barbecue, and everyone came with 400 heads of cattle, what's he going to do with all that? He's going to leave it in Yerushalayim, and he's going to leave a child there to eat it. Because no one works and works and works and just gives it away. So he'll leave a child in Yerushalayim, and he'll be guaranteed that he'll have a child who grows into a Talmud Chacham. So to increase the learning of Knesset Yisrael, the Baruch Shem pulled a fast one and had them bring a tenth of their income and leave it in Yerushalayim. These are what we call tachsisim. The Baruch Shem has tachsisim, but we ourselves need tachsisim. How can we trick ourselves into enjoying a blood Gemara? That's the question. How can we trick ourselves into enjoying Shnayim Mikveh Echad Targum? That should be a race to the finish, like, gotta get it over with for Tuesday. But you should enjoy Shnayim Mikveh Echad Targum. So if you learn a little bit Rashi, if you share a little bit on Rashi, if you learn a little bit Maim Chaim, if you learn a little bit Rambam, the things come to life. It becomes enjoyable. If you could forget about what time it is while you're learning, you made it. We have no clock in the Beis Medrash, in the Alfandri Street. So Bocha, every once in a while they keep asking me, why is there no clock in Beis Medrash? So a Bocha Taka, who was troubled by it, came and asked me, why is there no clock in Beis Medrash? I said to him, stop and think for 1 minute. Why do you need a clock in Beis Medrash? You don't need a clock to know when to come, because you're not in Beis Medrash to see the clock. So to come to Beis Medrash, you don't need a clock in Beis Medrash. You're afraid of getting locked in? Don't worry. Don't worry. You won't be locked in. You're afraid you'll miss mincha? Don't worry. You're not going to miss mincha. They can't start without telling you about it. So why do you need a clock in the Beis Medrash? To know how many more minutes it is until you could leave. That's why there's no clock in Beis Medrash. Question. I don't have to give you a clock, so you should be able to count the minutes to when you're ready to leave. You sit and learn. Forget about time for a few minutes, and you'll see. You can get to enjoy it. This is the Nakuda Shel Emes. The most pleasant experience in my Bereshis is learning Torah. And if we don't enjoy it, there's something wrong with the way we're doing it. It's like telling someone who swims for joy, how can you possibly enjoy swimming? I don't understand. It's cold, it's wet. Half the pool you end up swallowing. So what could you possibly enjoy swimming? Or a fellow who enjoys ski diving. Tell me, how could you possibly enjoy ski diving? A Bocha actually went to Rabbi Shteiman, and he said to them, Rabbi, could I get you a pizza? And the Rabbi said, not interested. To which the Bocha said, if the Rebbe is not interested in pizza, how could the Rebbe tell me to learn Torah if I say I'm not interested in learning Torah? What's the difference? To which the Rabbi answered him, very pashut. Very pashut. The reason you're not interested in learning Torah is not because there's a problem with the Torah. If I gave you a bowl of honey, and you tasted the honey, and you scream in pain, you would tell me that the honey has a problem. You obviously have a sore in your mouth. If you learn Torah and you don't enjoy it, you obviously have a sore in your mouth. Because if you're healthy, there's nothing like learning Torah. It's the Dvar Hashem. It's unbelievable. It's the Dvar Hashem. It came down on Sinai. It's made to enjoy more than honey. So what's the problem? Find the problem, and you'll see that the most enjoyable thing in the world is learning Torah. Again, I don't say chas v'sholem, not ani. Ani is zicha, a pleasurable experience, but it's not a replacement for anything. It's instead of eating, it's instead of sleeping, it's not instead of learning, it's not instead of davening. It's an increase. It makes more. But the basics, we have to make peace with the basics. The basics are what brings us close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasodim. And what is Avodah? So that's the question. There's no shaila that you're all right. If it gets us out of bed, if it gets us to stop to think, if it gets us to deepen our relationship, it's zicha, a maila. But where does it take us is the question. And the biggest raya is, what do we do next? What do we do next? So here we have a big maila, because here, as soon as we finish davening, singing the Kabbalah Shabbos, we say maila. So that's moiradik, because the niggin takes us straight into tefillah, 100%. But after kumzitz, what do? So it's a raya that we're on the way out. Oh, so after kumzitz, we open up a Gemara for a couple of hours. It's a raya bruda that it got us closer. If after the whole night of learning Shvuot, we sit down to cheesecake, it's a questionable experience. See, if I had it my way, I would eat the cheesecake Friday night, Leil Shvuot. And from the cheesecake you go into learning. That's a given. That's mine. But if from the learning you go into the cheesecake, it becomes a big Siman Sheila. And that's the way in everything. How do we know that it brought us closer? By our immediate behavior.
It sounds says that the Chetzi Lachem, Chetzi Lashem, and Shavuos, the Chetzi Lashem is the eating. So really the cheesecake is.
But you missed the point, Afrai, because the learning all night was the Chetzi Lachem. No. So if the learning all night is the Chetzi Lachem, you can't tear yourself away. It's mamish like a jacuzzi. So then the next morning the cheesecake is the Chetzi Lachem. But if the whole night Shavuot, you put in toothpicks to keep your eyes open, because you're doing the Barish Time a great service, so how could the cheesecake also be the Chetzi Lachem? You hear? We run it.